You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company. In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the KLRN Radio News Desk. I am Rick Robinson. We are just less than 30 minutes away from the Oklahoma opening of the legislative session, which kicks off, as always, with Governor Stitt's State of the State address. That'll be starting here about 12:30. For those of you on the East and West Coast, that would be 1:30 and 10:30, but I don't know why you would be listening to the State of the State address for Oklahoma, except for the fact that you love me. Anyway, so we're here, we're live. First time we've tried to do anything like this, so it may or may not be a train wreck, but we're going to keep doing it anyway. And so there are plenty of things to talk about, both nationally and locally, before the governor kicks off his address. So we're going to start off with a couple of the more local stories, which I found interesting. So apparently the Attorney General of Oklahoma has filed an injunction against Joe Biden's administration to prevent additional loss of family planning funds. Oklahoma Attorney General Gettner Drummond, dude, somebody watched way too much of Gary England way back in the day, filed an injunction against the Biden administration Friday to prevent the state from losing an additional year of Title IX funding for family planning services. Clinics participating in the Title IX programs offer confidential and low-cost family planning resources for all ages, including contraceptives, counseling, and pregnancy testing. Title X program. I don't know why I keep saying Title IX. Require information and counseling on all options, which includes, unfortunately, abortion if a pregnant patient requests it. The State Department of Health has received Title X funding since 1971, and it was revoked last year after it refused to give patients that information. In his November lawsuit against the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Drummond argued that federal law says money should not be used in Title X programs where abortion is a form of family planning. Title X in no way requires abortion referrals for a state's continued participation, the lawsuit reads. Rather, sans authority, HHS seeks to punish Oklahoma for the policies adopted by Oklahoma's elected representatives to protect unborn life. HHS is interfering with with rights reserved to the people and their elected representatives despite a clear federal mandate. 2 months after his initial lawsuit, Drummond is filing this injunction, which, if successful, would mean the federal government could not withhold another year of Title X money set to be distributed on April 1st. Drummond argues the state will suffer irreparable harm without it, as services would become in jeopardy. I will not, and this is a quote from him, by the way, I will not stand by while the overzealous Biden administration attempts to harm Oklahomans in desperate need of health care services, Drummond said in a news release. Oklahoma should not be punished for having pro-life policies that clash with President Biden's liberal agenda. Governor Kevin Stitt said in the release he supports Drummond's motion for an injunction. President Biden is playing political games with the health care needs of countless Oklahomans, all because of our pro-family values. It's wrong, he said in the release. The state of Oklahoma won't stand idly by while the Biden administration holds millions of federal dollars hostage, and I applaud Attorney General Drummond for taking swift action to combat this outrageous abuse of power. Currently, Oklahoma is dipping into $4.5 million in state funds to continue family planning services through county health department. Drummond said in the release he also committed to restoring those funds. So, yeah, if you think the fight against Biden isn't local, you're not paying attention, because I guarantee you, if Oklahoma is going through this, other states are too, that are pro-life instead of pro-abortion. So that was story number one. Now to take things to a national direction for just a minute. If you live in California, you may or may not be underwater right now. So I don't know about all that. But apparently there is severe flooding going on in Southern California. Has been for most of the morning. And yeah, it's not good. Fun times. And I had that story pulled up, and now I can't seem to find it. I was going to go into better detail with it, but now I can't seem to find it. So we may or may not come back to that one later. We have about 18 minutes till we have to join the State of the State address, so we're going to keep on plugging here. So let's see. So since this is the opening of the Oklahoma 2024 legislative session, what exactly should we expect? The first Monday in February marks the beginning of the Oklahoma legislative session, and Oklahoma lawmakers are gearing up to consider thousands of bills. The 2023 legislative session was riddled with in-party fighting among Republicans, particularly around education issues. Senate Pro Tem Greg Treat publicly criticized the school choice bill, championed by Oklahoma House Speaker Charles McCall, with Governor Stitt's support. Tensions were particularly high around last year's education budget, which included the use of obscure procedural moves and calls for public negotiations. The 2023 session started out with thousands of bills, but only 408 were signed into law during the regular session. The majority of them made their way through committees, opposite chambers, and eventually to the governor's desk, although several of them he vetoed that were eventually overridden. Stitt believed so little got done that he called for two special sessions. The first in October was adjourned by the Oklahoma Senate on the same day it began, and another began the last full week of January, just days before the regular session, to talk about tax cuts. What will be done about taxes? Stitt has called for three special sessions in the last 2 years to cut taxes in Oklahoma. The first two were unsuccessful, and the third is unlikely to yield results, either in the lead up to the regular session, also when it starts, as of today, actually. Oklahoma's massive savings accounts has ballooned to more than $3 billion in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, which featured a major infusion of federal funds. Stitt has repeatedly advocated for tax cuts and is currently trumpeting a plan that calls for eliminating Oklahoma income tax. He is garnering support from Oklahoma's House of Representatives. House Speaker Charles McCall has filed several bills cutting income taxes. According to reporting by the Tulsa World, the cuts would reduce lower-earning Oklahoma's tax bills by looks like $15,000. Middle-income earners by $15. I'm misreading that. $93 and top 1% by $2,300. It would cost the state about $230 million. As always in Oklahoma, education will be a hot-button topic yet again. While this year's session likely won't use the magnitude of education funding increases that last year's session brought, lawmakers are still looking for ways to target the state's teacher shortages, with incentives aimed at getting more educators in classrooms. Senator Adam Pugh, a Republican from Edmond, chairs the Chamber's Education Committee, and he's introducing another teacher raise through Senate Bill 1313 that would boost salaries by $1,500 to $3,000 annually, depending on years of experience. He also wants to revisit last year's historic teacher maternity leave policy and add adoption to it with Senate Bill 1315. Lawmakers are also targeting teacher training programs through offering financial assistance. Senator Ali Seyfried, a Republican from Claremore, is proposing a teacher recruitment academy in Senate Bill 1342, which would pay tuition and fees for Oklahoma students who pursue a bachelor's degree to teach in critical shortage areas identified by the state. Seyfried is also looking to lessen the financial burden on future teachers in Senate Bill 1213 by providing a $3,000 stipend during the student teaching internships. Following Governor Stitt's executive order limiting the scope of diversity, equity, and inclusion, programs at the state's highest education institutions, Senator Rob Standridge, Republican of Norman, is hoping to take down DEI programs outright. Can I get a hallelujah? He's introduced 3 bills, Senate Bill 1303, Senate Bill 1306, and Senate Bill 1305, to get rid of DEI offices and policies. One bill sure to make waves if passed is Pew's Senate Bill 1395, which would take the State Board of Education from its often unanimous 7 members to 11 members, and instead of the governor getting sole appointing authority, it would be divided between the Senate Pro Tem, the Speaker of the House, and the governor. It would also allow members to be removed due to malfeasance, misfeasance, and nonfeasance of board duties, or by missing 3 successive meetings without just cause. During this session, lawmakers will consider further abortion restrictions and also attempt to prevent gender-affirming care. Although abortion is virtually illegal in Oklahoma, some lawmakers want to further restrict travel to obtain it and medications that could reduce it. Rep. Denise Crosswhite Hayter, Republican of Piedmont, and Rep. Jim Olson, Republican Roland, filed House Bill 3013, which would make it a felony punishable by $100,000 for a person to deliver, possess, offer, or advertise abortion-inducing drugs. Senate Bill 1778, filed by Senator Nathan Dahm, Republican Broken Arrow, would allow district attorneys or the attorney general to prosecute anyone who helps helps an unemancipated minor procure an abortion or abortion-inducing drugs without parental consent. The crime for abortion trafficking could be 2 to 5 years in prison. Some lawmakers want to grant legal protections to embryos. Senator Dusty Devers, Republican of Lawton, filed Senate Bill 1729, which would allow mothers to be prosecuted and charged with murder for getting an abortion. I'm pro-life, but ouch. Olson also introduced a constitutional amendment saying personhood begins at conception. A similar amendment failed in 2012, and the current one would require legislative and voter approval. Senate Bill 1777 is also on the table, and also authorized by Dom, would prevent providers from receiving certain reimbursements and funding if they provide gender-affirming care, including things like puberty blockers and surgeries. This comes after a district court upheld a gender-affirming care ban on minors after a lawsuit from the ACLU of Oklahoma. The ACLU's case was recently heard in the U.S. Court of Appeals of the 10th Circuit. Senate Health and Human Services Chair Paul Rosino, Republican of Oklahoma, authored SB 1344. It would authorize state health agencies to seek funding for education and health care services related to nonprofit alternatives. They can also assist in local groups in developing and administering services funded by opioid settlement grants. Voting access and election conduct. Lawmakers will again tackle measures relating to elections, including registration, voter identification, technology use, and more. Senator George Burns, love that dude, not this one, the actual George Burns, Republican of Looks like, I keep saying Roland, but it looks like it's this one's Pollard. So yeah, I don't think I was misreading the other one. Just almost misread that one. SB 1414 would require voters to have a photo identification card when they head to the polls. The bill directs Service Oklahoma to develop a voter identification card and provides them free of charge to voters. See, this is what I've been saying all along. One of the biggest complaints the Democrats have is, well, you can't require voter identification cards because then certain people might not be able to afford them. So you give them to them. So this is smart, in my opinion. We'll see what else is in it, but so far on the face of it, this looks pretty smart. They would be supplied free of charge to the voters. The Brennan Center for Justice finds the strict ID requirements impact as many as 11% of eligible voters who do not have the kind of identification required by states. Senior citizens, minorities, people with disabilities, low-income voters, and students are even more likely to be affected. Burns is also tackling election technology use in SB 1515, which would add a new section to existing law that says the Secretary of County Election Boards must use GPS to ensure a voter is assigned to the right precinct. Another piece of legislation, SB 1374, by Senator Nathan Dahm, Republican Broken Arrow, would put tighter restrictions on absentee voting by requiring the state election board to mark each absentee ballot with a special watermark. If the ballot does not contain the special mark, it will be rejected. Senate Democrats also submitting legislation related to elections. Senator Julia Kurt, Democrat of Oklahoma City, is calling for elections. Yes, I said Democrat. You didn't hear me wrong. Of elections of county officials to be nonpartisan. SB 1544 would require all county elections to be nonpartisan beginning in 2025. Proponents of increasing nonpartisan elections for positions like county officials say political parties should be irrelevant to the services local governments provide. Really now? Okay. Lawmakers to consider foreign land ownership along with other agricultural topics. Foreign landowners' possession of agricultural land is a hot topic in Oklahoma and also across the nation. During this legislative session, at least 6 land ownership bills have been filed. Some are geared towards foreign land holdings, and others look to reduce the amount of land owned through the state and federal governments. Can I get an amen on both of those? SB 1953, authored by Senator George Burns from Pollard again, would prevent people who are not U.S. citizens from leasing agricultural land directly or indirectly through a business or a trust. But if a business is active in regulated interstate trade, it is exempt. Any lease in violation of this rule would be invalid, and the land rights will go back to the lessor. This would not apply to non-citizens living in the state. And my question is, why not? Anyway, while legislators look into land and they will consider lunch program. This is weird. While legislators look into land, they will also consider lunch programs. The topic of school lunch has been circulating in media outlets, especially since Stitt turned down USDA funds for a summer food assistance program. Senator Jessica Garvin, Republican of Duncan, is introducing Senate Bill 1473 to make an Oklahoma farm-to-school program where producers would receive grants to grow farm-fresh products for school districts. Now, as much as I'm not in favor of government intervention, I kind of like this idea, at least on its face. Our kids need to stop eating so much processed food. Hell, all of America needs to stop eating so much processed food. All right, we're gonna take a break and then come back. And by the time we come back, we should be just about ready to join Governor Stitt's State of the State address. You are listening to the KLRN Radio News Desk right here live on KLRNradio.com. I'm Rick Robinson, and we'll be back after the break.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company. In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Back into the KLRN Radio News Desk. We are about to join in progress Governor's State of the State Address, which again is the opening of the Oklahoma legislative session for 2024. I'm Rick Robinson, Programming Director, and also Managing Editor, Programming Director, KLRN Radio, and Managing Editor for Digital Beacon News, and we will be joining the progress, joining in progress this State of the State Address right now.
Into special session where they will converge on the House chamber. The senators and the representatives are there along with elected officials. So it's a packed house, to be sure, for the State of the State Address, which should begin in, just about 10 minutes. That's usually about the way it goes. And Governor Stitt will be doing his 6th State of the State Address today. He will be talking about, among other things, his goal all along since the beginning of his first term to do what he calls the Oklahoma turnaround and make Oklahoma a top 10 state. He'll also talk about how to get government out of the way of people in the state of Oklahoma. Sean, he will talk about tax cuts, and that probably is going to be the number one item on Governor Stitt's agenda today, in addition to some other things. We've had a chance to peruse an advanced copy of his speech, but tax cuts will be prominent.
Yes, and the governor really did not want them to be. He called a special session that began a week ago today for the purpose of lawmakers considering and, in his mind, passing an individual income tax cut by last Friday. He said he wanted it out of the way before the regular session began. And the House did pass a bill on Wednesday that reduces the individual income tax by 1/4 percentage point. But the Senate had adjourned on Monday to the call of the chair. Senate President Pro Tem Greg Treat said the Senate wanted to see the final revenue estimate from the State Board of Equalization, which will come on February 15th. And he said then tax cut discussions can begin. But it's interesting. Over the weekend, Senate President Pro Tem Greg Treat issued his own press release touting his proposal to reduce the state sales tax on groceries to zero. He said that compared to the tax cut that has been passed by the House and was requested by Governor Stitt, it would put more money in the pockets of Oklahomans. So it seems like we're entering this session now with competing tax cut proposals from Republicans.
And the Senate President Pro Tem Greg Treat has indicated he would like to wait until the Board of Equalization meets in February to actually certify funds available for appropriation before they get too far down the road.
That's right. And keep in mind, Pro Tem Treat has introduced this new process for the Senate to do the budget, something he hopes will be more open and allow the public to see more of the Senate's work and to see what it goes into discussions with the House and the governor with. So once they have those numbers, the Senate Appropriations Subcommittees will begin making recommendations on how they would appropriate money to the various state agencies. That will then go before this full Senate Appropriations Committee, and that ultimately will become a resolution to be considered on the Senate floor. But part and parcel to that, of course, is whatever they want to do or at least set aside for tax cuts. So we could get an indication perhaps later this month in February or by the middle of next month, really where the Senate is focused in terms of tax cuts based on those numbers from the Board of Equalization.
And I think we can expect to hear more from the governor about Oklahoma values and the way that he views the state of Oklahoma, which includes that Oklahoma is a law and order state. It's a state that respects freedom, and it's a state that, in his opinion, is always looking to have smaller government or lower in reliance on government and more personal responsibility. I think those kinds of themes we will hear today during the governor's speech. We're waiting for everyone to arrive, and the way this typically works is that there is a committee that is empowered to go to the governor's office and extend an invitation to the governor to come to the joint session, to speak to the joint session and to the people of the state of Oklahoma about what is happening in the state currently, what he sees as the state of the state, and also to provide his view for where Oklahoma needs to go in the year ahead. And, Sean, one other thing that will take place is the release of the governor's executive budget.
That's right. This will be Governor Kevin Stitt's sixth State of the State speech and sixth executive budget. When I talked to the governor back in December when the Board of Equalization had met for the first time to discuss the upcoming fiscal year's revenue picture, he reminded me, and for that matter, other lawmakers and policymakers, that he is for tax cuts and he is for smaller government. So I suspect when we look at the governor's budget today, we will see that reflected. For a number of years, he has been very forthright in urging state agencies and their executive directors to propose almost no growth or very limited growth in their budgets. And when he and I spoke in December, he talked about the fact that there may be some one-time projects that need to be funded. But for the most part, he believed most state agencies could move forward with really no additional funding beyond where they were appropriated for the current fiscal year.
A couple of other things to look for and listen for in the speech today will be a reference to special interests dominating the policy discussions at the state capitol, and also the relationship between the state of Oklahoma and tribal nations that are residing in the state of Oklahoma. That will be an interesting section to listen for.
It certainly will. In terms of special interests, the governor issued an executive order several years ago prohibiting state agencies from hiring lobbyists, and he recently renewed that executive order. He has been very focused on making sure that executive branch agencies are working as closely with him and his cabinet secretaries as they can and not pursuing their own agendas. And of course, the state's relationship with the tribal nations, and particularly the governor's office with relationship with tribal nations, has been there has been some consternation in that area, and it has been the focus of both the legislature, the governor's office, and of course the tribal nations themselves. The governor vetoed a couple of bills back in 2023 related to compacts with tribal nations, but recently signed new compacts with several of the nations. And as you'll recall, Dick, we identified the governor's relationship with the tribal nations as probably the top story of 2023. And we see it's probably going to remain an ongoing story in 2024.
Yes, it will. Let me tell everyone what is going on right now in the House chamber. The joint session is now underway. It's been gavelled to order by Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell. Standing behind him are Speaker of the House Charles McCall and Senate President Pro Tem Greg Treat. And the chamber is filling up as we're awaiting the arrival of Governor Kevin Stitt. This is the second session of the 59th Oklahoma legislature. And, Sean, there's a lot of legislation before lawmakers this year because not only do they have the more than 2,000 bills and joint resolutions that they have filed for this year, but there are carryover bills, a large number of carryover bills from the first session of the 59th legislature.
That is always one of the interesting things about the second session of any legislature, and that is that any bill that did not make it all the way through the legislative process, it got hung up in a committee, for example, as long as it did not fail, it remains alive and available for consideration when the second session convenes. So in addition to the better than 2,000 pieces of new legislation that were filed for the 2024 regular session, there's an equal number of bills carried over from the 2023 regular session. And another interesting thing about those bills is that they can be taken up from where they stopped in the legislative process. So there are bills that have passed the House and been sent to the Senate and gone through Senate committee and were on Senate general order. They were lined up to be considered on the floor, but for one reason or another didn't make it. Those could be taken up relatively quickly. And of course, the same is true of Senate bills that made it to the House or that are somewhere along the way in the committee process. There's an opportunity in certain situations for some of those bills to move rapidly and go on to Governor Kevin Stitt's desk for his consideration. We'll just have to watch and see if they pick any of those up.
Sean, this is Logan Layton. We cover education extensively at State Impact Oklahoma and here at KGOU. I don't know if you have had a chance to review the remarks from the governor that are coming up, but how big of a factor is education policy going to be playing in his speech today?
Well, I believe it will play a role. One of the issues that Governor Stitt has been a fairly consistent advocate for is school choice. And of course, during the 2023 legislative session, lawmakers passed and he signed the parental choice tax credit measure. I believe the governor will tout that measure in his speech today. I'm not sure whether he will call for expansion of it. We have heard him at various times mention that he would like to see the current caps on that credit lifted. And there are bills pending before the legislature that would do that. However, he has not explicitly endorsed any of those yet. I think he'll continue to call for continued reform and improvements in public education, something Superintendent of Public Instruction Ryan Walters has been espousing with his Back to Basics program. We've yet to hear the governor specifically endorse that plan, but that plan is relatively consistent with some of the things the governor has said about what common education needs to be doing. Education is always a big issue. It does not necessarily need to be in the governor's speech or in half the legislation that's filed. It's still going to play a major role in the legislative session because every district has a lot of public schools.
And the governor is going to be talking about the impact of schools on the workforce as well, and how to develop a ready, willing, and able workforce in Oklahoma, which includes education. Pushing for, among other things, school choice, as you mentioned, more innovation, more freedom in schools, the ability to go to the school of your choice, and for charter schools to be a large part, which are public schools, but for charter schools to be part of that as well.
Yes, this is a movement we've been seeing develop over the last several years and really beginning to refine itself. It really started out with the career tech system, where the focus was training individuals with specific skills to go into specific areas of the workforce. But now that viewpoint is being expanded, it seems, to apply not only to career tech, but to common education as well, and particularly the high school level, with the idea of enterprise schools and others that would help students come out of those schools with a focused set of credentials and abilities. And of course, we're seeing it more and more on the higher education side, where higher ed for a number of years already has sort of been focused on these critical workforce areas in order to generate degrees. I think they would like to see a closer alignment between higher ed and businesses in determining what those critical workforce areas are so that higher ed can be more responsive to those needs. But that relationship is expanding significantly, where it was just career tech. Now we're picking up common schools and higher ed with quite a bit of force.
As we are watching Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell at the podium in the House of Representatives, behind him are the Senate President Pro Tem Greg Treat and the Speaker of the House Charles McCall. Another underlying story during this legislative session is going to involve them. Both of them will be leaving in their leadership posts, and so this will be their last opportunity to make an impact in their roles, and who takes their place will also be a story to watch.
Oh, that's definitely true. The Senate likely will vote in the next few weeks on their pro tem nominee for the 60th legislature, which will begin in a year. And the House, I believe, will vote sometime in March. As I understand it, there are campaigns taking place among both Republican caucuses for those posts. The front runner in the Senate seems to be Senate Majority Floor Leader Greg McCourtney, but he does face some possible challengers. In the House, House Speaker Pro Tem Kyle Hilbert is believed to be the front runner. And House Speaker Charles McCall, when speaking to the state regents back in December, made an interesting point that it's interesting to see these internal campaigns unfold and how members of the legislature will feel one another out and try to see what one another's agenda is and what their focuses will be as they try to decide who to vote for.
And on the floor of the House, there has just now been presented a motion for those leaders in the House and Senate to appoint a committee and send a committee to greet and deliver Governor Kevin Stitt to the House chamber for the State of the State address. So that's the formality of what's going on. We still have Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell presiding. The judiciary, members of the judiciary have entered. Obviously, there's members of the cabinet that are also on hand, and it's a full gallery in the State House of Representatives. It's quite an exciting day to be at the state capitol. It's a day of renewal. It's a day of hope. It's a day for optimism and some consternation from time to time, depending on how you feel about the legislation that's being proposed. But regardless, this is an exciting day.
Yes, it's often compared to the first day of school, and now we see Governor Stitt coming onto the House floor. He's being greeted by members of the House and Senate Republican caucuses. I will point out, I believe it was last year that the governor went out of his way when he left.
All right, so we've been given another stream we're trying to make work here. Thanks.
Members of the legislature, executive officers, tribal leaders, members of the judiciary, and people of Oklahoma. It is my distinct honor to recognize my friend, the chief executive, our governor, Kevin Stitt.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thanks so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell, Mr. Speaker, Mr. President Pro Tem, and members of the 59th Legislature, members of the judiciary, statewide elected officials, thank you so much for your service to our great state. Tribal leaders, to my cabinet, thank you guys so much for serving the state with such distinction. Such an honor to serve with you. To my wife, Sarah, the greatest first lady in the country. To my children who are with me today, and my son-in-law. And most importantly, to my fellow Oklahomans. First off, I want to give thanks to my Heavenly Father for allowing me to serve in this position and for all the blessings that He has for our great state. It is my honor and privilege to stand before you today to give my 6th State of the State address. And I know for some of you, you're excited because that means you only have to listen to me 2 more times. But as we begin this session, I'm happy to report that the state of our state is the strongest it's ever been. As part of our 6th session, I want to recognize, before we get started, Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell, President Pro Tem Greg Treat, Speaker Charles McCall, for all the hard work that they've done over the last 5 years. Never in Oklahoma history have the same 4 elected officials served together for all 6 years. And we haven't always agreed, but we've accomplished a great deal working together for the people of Oklahoma. So proud to work with you guys. Thank you so much for your service. I also want to thank each of you in this room for all the hard work you do on behalf of your constituents. We can't do any of this on our own. In 1 Corinthians 12:14, Paul talks about the body of Christ. And he's talking about referring to the church, but I think the lessons also apply here in this building. We have to work together to accomplish and move our state forward. And as we fight for the well-being of those who entrusted us with leadership, there's going to be challenges. But we can face those challenges with a vision of hope. And hope comes from neighbors walking with neighbors and churches and communities coming alongside those in need. We are so blessed in Oklahoma to have people who bring that hope to those who are in some of the most hopeless situations. And today, I want to highlight Gail and Mike Priest. They are founders of the 99+1 Foundation. They renovated an old nursing home into a home for young women aging out of the foster system. Their guiding scripture is Matthew 18:14. Even so it is the will of your Father which is in heaven that not one of these little ones should perish. They truly have a heart for the Lord, and they are teaching young women that their future can be better than their present. The women that they care for are some of the most at risk for human trafficking. Send me legislation that further protects our most vulnerable populations from those who seek to exploit them. We have Gail and Mike. They're here with us today, and we're so proud to have you in our state. Would you please stand up? We know hope is not a speech or a government program, and that's why we started beaneighbor.org, to connect people in need with churches and nonprofits in their community. Hope is a science that can be taught, and hope emerges when you can see a path forward. I'm grateful to my wife, Sarah, who started Hope Rising Oklahoma. And because of her efforts to highlight and teach the science of hope, Oklahoma is the nation's first hope-centered state. And now, people from around the country are starting to take notice. Thank you, Sarah, for standing with me for the last 25 years and being such an inspiration to so many Oklahomans. I love you so much. Hope comes from hard work, because we know that we are designed by our Creator to work, to provide for our families, and to contribute to society. You know, it comes from teaching our young people that their future can be bright and you can accomplish anything you set your mind to do. So, what is our job as state leaders? To create more government programs or to get government out of the way? Excessive government intervention encourages people to look to government programs instead of personal responsibility. There's a school of thought called the success sequence that really outlines 3 simple steps to combat poverty. Number 1, graduate from high school. Number 2, get a job. Number 3, get married before having kids. That's it. Those 3 things are a surefire way to keep families out of poverty. That's why we need strong families teaching values in the state of Oklahoma. We are living in the most fatherless generation in our history. In 1970, just 10% of kids were born out of wedlock. Today, that statistic is staggering. Nearly 40% of kids are born to single mothers. Single mothers are 5 times more likely to be in poverty than 2-parent families. We know that the best preventer of poverty is a married mom living in married parents living in the home. So we became the first state in the nation to declare Family Month this past November. That's the culture we're promoting here in Oklahoma, and we know it works. In 2019, I addressed this body for the very first time, and I laid out a vision to make Oklahoma top 10 in everything that we do. And I said, the Oklahoma turnaround starts right now, and we are well on our way. We have gotten government out of the way. We've allowed families and businesses to thrive. We've revolutionized our education system, creating more options for parents and students while also investing more in our teachers and our public schools than ever before. We've cut excessive regulations and made it easier for businesses to navigate state government. Since then, it has become even more clear to me, government is not the answer. In the last 5 years, we've had record revenue growth, the lowest unemployment, and record savings. We are top 10 in real GDP growth. We're number 6 in lowest cost of living. We're number 8 in energy affordability. We have in Oklahoma an energy advantage because we're promoting our bedrock industries of oil and natural gas. We're also pioneering new forms of energy, and now we're number 3 in the country in wind energy production. We're securing the critical mineral supply chain right here in Oklahoma. And now we are top 10 in people moving to the great state of Oklahoma. People are now looking at Oklahoma as the example of a shining city on a hill. I want each of you and all of us in this room to take a moment to consider what is possible in Oklahoma over the next 20 years. The Oklahoma you want your children and your grandchildren to live in. Do we want a state that is stuck in a boom-to-bust cycle? Or do we want prosperity and growth like we've experienced over the last 5 years? When I stop to think about it, think about what Oklahoma looks like in 20 years, here's what I see. I see people moving here from all over the country so they can be part, they can keep more of their hard-earned money thanks to our 0% income tax. I see entrepreneurs flocking here, and we are the business headquarters capital of the world. Because of our energy advantage, we're the manufacturing, the AI, and the data center capital of the world. Our schools, our colleges, our universities are teaching kids how to think, not what to think. And students from all over the country are coming to Oklahoma to take part in the free flow of ideas. Our flagship universities have each grown to over 40,000 students, and they're the premier think tanks in their field. I see Oklahomans who take seriously the commandment to care for the widow and the orphan. I see a state where family values are foundational. I see a state where our communities are safe, and the Oklahoma standard is alive and well, and our state is thriving. But we can't let success make us complacent and forget what made the Oklahoma dream possible, which is free enterprise and individual liberties, not more government programs. Ladies and gentlemen, now is our time to shine. If we're a top 10 state, all boats will rise. Education, infrastructure, healthcare, quality of life. It's not that complicated. The economy is going to follow the path of least resistance. Our job is to make Oklahoma the state where it is easiest to start and grow a business. So let's talk about how to get there. To accomplish our vision and to create the most business-friendly state where freedom and opportunity abound for every single person, a top 10 state for generations to come, we need to limit the growth of government. We cannot keep putting more burdens on our taxpayers. Kevin O'Leary from the Shark Tank came to visit Oklahoma a couple weeks ago. And as he explores places to make new investments, he says he would never invest in states like California, New York, because of their overregulation and their taxes. Oklahoma has the business environment he is looking to tap into. To be the best state for business and attract top-level CEOs, we need to keep pushing business-friendly policies and reducing burdensome regulations. I'm calling on the legislature to take a page out of Delaware and Texas's playbook. And let's set up a system of courts specifically designed to address business disputes. Okay, businesses need assurances that disputes will be adjudicated by courts with expertise in business law. Next, I'm calling on local governments to join us in the effort to be the most business-friendly state in the nation. If our local governments are levying huge permitting fees or delaying projects, it will chill investments and cause companies to look elsewhere. We have to match our competition, Dallas and Kansas City and Denver and Houston, to make Oklahoma the business headquarters capital of the world. We're going to be inviting energy companies to come here and join the ranks of Devon and Williams and Continental and ONEOK. We want more retail giants like Hobby Lobby and Brahms and Quick Trip to call Oklahoma home. We want to keep building our aerospace and our defense industry, like companies like American Airlines and Boeing and Lockheed Martin. We want to secure the critical mineral supply chain and loosen China's grip on these technologies. I know we can do that right here from our backyard. We already have companies like Blue Whale, Rare Earth USA, and Stardust. They're setting up shop, and they're part of that critical mineral supply chain we need for our national defense. If we get our regulations right, with our low cost of energy, our central location, our strong workforce, Oklahoma is the perfect place for new industries looking for a home. You know, each new industry is part of something great in our state. In Oklahoma, we say we feed the world, we fuel the world, and we defend freedoms around the world. But let's make sure we have a sustainable government budget to solidify our prosperity for years to come. Listen to this. New York, they have 19.8 million people, and their annual budget is $233 billion a year. Florida, one of the fastest growing states, it's actually bigger than New York, with 22 million people. Their annual budget is half that, about $116 billion a year. Florida doesn't have an income tax. New York is at 10.9%. Last year, I called on the legislature to cut the personal income tax from 4.75% to 3.99%. I've called 3 special sessions to try and give Oklahomans a pay raise. Instead, our reoccurring expenses grew last year by over $1.14 billion. And that doesn't include one-time expenses like ARPA. You know, with record savings and surpluses, I'm asking us all, if not now, then when? In the 1990s, we were at a 7% income tax. So I'm renewing my call. Let's get us Oklahoma back on the path to zero. You've heard me say year after year, we don't need more taxes, we need more taxpayers. Two years ago, we cut a 1/4 point from the individual tax rate, and we lowered business tax by 2 full percentage points. Since then, revenue collections have increased by $1.5 billion. That's been the trend after every tax cut we've passed. So I'll sign any tax cut that comes to my desk. Because as we have growth, it should be automatic to return excess to the taxpayers, not to seek out bigger government programs. If more government spending was the answer, Florida would be falling apart. The opposite is true. It's states like New York and California that are falling apart. They're facing huge, massive budget crises. And people are moving here every single day from states like California because they see opportunity and they see freedoms and they see they can keep more of their hard-earned money. It's not tax cuts that will get us in trouble. It's the unrestricted growth of government. That's why I'm calling for flat budgets across government this year. To be clear, I'm not advocating for cutting core services. What I am advocating for is a sustainable amount of growth where we are funding our needs, not our wants. Listen, there is never a shortage of new programs or someone pitching a good idea. In politics, you're only criticized for saying no. It's easy to feel like the wind is at our back and we're leading when we're always saying yes. But it's our job as leaders to make the tough decisions now for the future prosperity of Oklahoma. A strong economy is essential to being the most business-friendly state. But we also have to have an education system that meets our workforce needs. Thanks to everybody in this room, or almost everybody, we led the nation by passing the revolutionary parental choice tax credit last year. Now, students and parents, they have more options than ever. Because we know God gave kids to their parents, not to the government. Emily McDonald, she's an Edmond mom of 3, and she sent her kids to their zip code school. Her oldest child is thriving in public schools. Her second child, a boy with autism, he faces struggles as well, but he has also gotten the support he needs at his school. But her younger daughter, she came home from school crying every single day because of the way other students treated her as she stood up for her brother with autism. Emily had recently lost her husband and was raising these 3 children on her own. She saw her daughter starting to fall behind academically because of the bullying she was experiencing. And on a single income, she didn't know how she'd be able to afford to send her daughter to another school. The tax credit program was in the works, so she took a leap of faith and she enrolled her daughter in a private Christian school, praying that they would be approved for the tax credit. Well, I am happy to report her daughter is thriving in her new school. In just half a school year, she has jumped 3 grade levels in reading. Emily is with us today, and I wanted to recognize her and her daughter. Would you please stand up? There are so many reasons parents may choose a different school that isn't their neighborhood school, and it's our job to make sure they have that freedom. You know, looking forward, let's focus on opening the door to more workforce-oriented schools so that every kid in Oklahoma is college ready or they're career ready. Let's empower community leaders to start new, innovative schools that are molded to the needs of our state and prepare our students for the future workforce. We want more schools that prepare kids for the workforce, like Cristo Rey, Dove Science Academy, or the Norman Aviation Academy. These high schools focus on career training instead of only focusing on college. The Norman Aviation Academy, it's a public school that gives students hand-on experience in the aviation industry. You know, students can work towards their pilot's license or their technical certificates in aviation maintenance, and they can leave school with great jobs with aviation companies right here in the state of Oklahoma. Cristo Rey, it requires kids to intern 1 day a week at different companies so they gain valuable work experience. Let's have more of these schools and be number one in the nation in charter schools. Especially when we're already proving that they work so well. Oklahoma is top 10 in charter school performance. Not only that, Oklahoma ranks number one in the nation for smallest racial performance gaps in our charter schools. So why are there still barriers for charter schools to use vacant school buildings? Let's put some of these vacant school facilities to use and get more high-performing charter schools up and running, especially in areas with poor-performing public schools. More schools, more innovation, more freedoms. Send me legislation that paves the way for more charter schools and gives students more options. Additionally, I want to empower our colleges and our universities to be the very, very best in the nation. And to be the best, we need to shift our focus to outcome-based higher education models and stop subsidizing institutions with low enrollment and low graduation rates. Technology has transformed the way we do higher education. So we can't keep relying on 20th century education models to bring our students into the future workforce. You know, each college and university needs to focus in on the subjects they are best at and become the premier institutions in their area. Send me legislation that incentivizes models that fulfill our state's workforce needs. I also want our regents to focus on consolidating colleges and universities that aren't meeting this standard. In Oklahoma, education freedom is for every single student at every single level. We cannot be the best state for businesses and have the greatest education system and the greatest universities, but if we don't have safe communities, nobody's going to want to live here. So I want to be clear. Oklahoma is a law and order state. We support our law enforcement. We punish criminals. We protect our citizens. I want to put criminals on notice. You're not welcome here. You will serve time. We also believe in fair sentences, and we believe in second chances. I knew I'd get the Democrats going in a second. We've worked hard to make sure we're prosecuting crimes and rehabilitating. We also believe in fair sentences, and we believe in second chances. I knew I'd get the Democrats going in a second. We've worked hard to make sure we're prosecuting crimes and rehabilitating. We need to address civil asset forfeiture. All
right, so we were having some issues with the feed. I think I have it sorted out again now, maybe. We'll see.
It's crazy to me that somebody can be pulled over, have their cash and their truck taken for an alleged crime, get acquitted of that crime, but never get their property back. That isn't fair, and we need to make sure that's not happening in the state of Oklahoma. In 2022, when I addressed this chamber, I said we were going to focus on our state's marijuana industry and we were going to get it back in line. Thanks to a lot of you in this room. At its peak, reports showed somewhere between 12 to 14,000 licensed marijuana businesses, including many with links to criminal organizations from China and Mexico and Russia. Through the enforcement actions of Donnie Anderson at OBN and Adria Berry and her team at OMMA, Oklahoma has gone from having the reputation as the Wild West of weed to now being viewed as having some of the most effective enforcement and regulatory oversight in the nation. Licenses are down now 76%. We have to keep bad actors like the drug cartels out of the state of Oklahoma. And that starts with securing our country's southern border. I've been very vocal about my support of Texas and Governor Abbott as they fight to secure our southern border and put pressure on the Biden administration to enforce laws. And I will continue to offer the assistance of the Oklahoma National Guard because we know that if we don't have a secure border, every single state is a border state. Let's take a moment now to recognize the service of those in our National Guard under the leadership of Major General Tommy Mancino. Many have answered the call of duty and deployed to the southern border of Texas and to Kenya and to Djibouti. We're so proud of their bravery and their commitment to serving our state and our nation. As I talk to people around the state, they tell me that they want a state government that works efficiently, treats them fairly, and protects their fundamental rights. Many Oklahomans I talk to want clarity about who has authority to do what in our state. And that's because today our state is dealing with the fallout from the McGirt decision. It's a decision that has rocked our state and cause division where previously there was none. But I know there's a path forward. Because of the success we found negotiating compacts with the Apaches, the Chickasaws, the Citizen Potawatomi, and the Wyandotte governments just over the last few weeks. Do what in our state? And that's because today our state is dealing with the fallout from the McGirt decision. It's a decision that has rocked our state and caused division where previously there was none. But I know there's a path forward. Because of the success we found negotiating compacts with the Apaches, the Chickasaws, the Citizen Potawatomi, and the Wyandotte governments just over the last few weeks. I ask, who regulates agriculture, water, energy? Today, there are tribal governments trying to stand in the way of our State Department of Agriculture's ability to issue necessary permits to farmers to work on their private lands. In 2021, I ask, what is the state's ability to enforce laws? There are tribal governments who supported a man named Hooper as he fought against Tulsa Police's authority to enforce traffic laws. In 2021, I asked, who had the authority to make arrests and prosecute people? Today, we're dealing with the fallout from the conflict at the Okmulgee County Jail, where due to disagreements about who has authority over that part of our state, there was a standoff as a Creek tribal officer tried to arrest a county correctional officer in his jail. 3 years after McGirt, we are still operating under a confusing and conflicting patchwork of jurisdiction across our state. It is imperative that we clarify our law enforcement relationships immediately. That's why I created the One Oklahoma Task Force to come up with cross-deputizations and jail agreements. I hope that this task force can work to find a solution that protects the safety of all 4 million Oklahomans, regardless of their race or their heritage. And I hope the tribes will choose to participate. In 2021, I said, it is critical, while embracing the tribal heritage of many Oklahomans, that we do not lose sight of the fact that we're all Oklahomans. We can't be a state that operates two different sets of rules, especially based on race. Here's the deal. Things are different in Oklahoma than they are in places like Arizona. Arizona has the Navajo Reservation. And it is true, tribal members who live on the Navajo Reservation do not pay taxes to the state of Arizona. But here's what's also true. The state of Arizona doesn't build roads on the reservation. They don't fund hospitals, they don't fund public schools or airports on the reservation. They don't send the Arizona Highway Patrol to enforce laws on the reservation. And there are tribal governments who want Tulsa and eastern Oklahoma to look like the Navajo Reservation. But eastern Oklahoma is different than the Navajo Reservation. And we have better outcomes for our tribal populations across the board. We've operated as one Oklahoma since statehood, and it's how we're going to operate for as long as I'm governor. Stand with me to protect one unified Oklahoma. Before I wrap up, I want to challenge each of us in this room to consider two things. One, who are we allowing to influence the laws that we make? I love how Boone Pickens put it. You know, he said when people try to influence him, he would ask himself, do they have a vested interest in what they're trying to push? Who are we letting influence us here in this building? Are special interests dominating, or are the interests of all 4 million Oklahomans guiding our decisions. And the second question is, what legacy are we going to leave the future Oklahoma? We need to be working for the next generation, not the next election. Are we leaving Oklahoma better than we found it? Are we willing to risk everything to do the right thing? Or will we risk the dream of Oklahoma's future for personal gain? Ronald Reagan said this: there are no easy answers, but there's simple answers. We must have the courage to do what we know is morally right. What are we doing today to protect this Oklahoma we love for our children and our grandchildren? If that isn't our sole focus, we are here for the wrong reasons. Governing should be about making the tough decisions, not what's easy or convenient. And as I conclude today, I want to declare, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I'm calling on our businesses to serve God in the marketplace, our churches to serve God and people in their communities, our government officials to serve God by acting righteously and serving without partiality. We're making sure the next generation can live out their American dream, their Oklahoma dream. So let's go. God bless you, and may God continue to bless the great state of Oklahoma. Thank you very much. Have a great session.
All right, folks, so that was the 59th State of the State address led by Governor Kevin Stitt. His sixth turn behind the microphone, and you may have heard him jokingly say, some of you are going to be happy because that means you only have to listen to me do this 2 more times, because, he's halfway through his second 4-year term. Interesting side note that we'll be getting to later today on the Rick Robinson Show is apparently Senator James Lankford has eyes on the state governorship. I don't know how well that's going to work for him, since it seems he sold his soul to the left, but we'll be getting into that and much, much more here in just about a half hour on the Rick Robinson Show, live right here on KLRN Radio. This has been Oklahoma local coverage of Governor Stitt's State of the State address, and we're going to start doing things like this more often as they come up, and I'll be back doing the Rick Robinson Show here in just a little bit under a half hour. So find something else to do for a little bit and then come back. Just say it. All right, we're going to get out of here. Thank you for joining the KLR Radio News Desk. Again, I'm Rick Robinson, General Manager and Programming Director of KLRNradio.com and Editor-in-Chief of TheDigitalBeacon.com, coming later this month. Bye, everybody.